The Eurasian Times, 30th of July 2023, India vs China and Pakistan at BRICS. Rivals become prices as bloc becomes economic powerhouse. China has been attempting to establish a bloc to compete with the West, and is trying to take advantage of the BRICS to form another alliance, with New Delhi opposing the BRICS group's expansion and Pakistan accusing India of preventing it from attending a BRICS-related meeting. Belarus' application to join the group has brought attention to New Delhi's role, which is seen as acting with a Western tilt. India and the opposing sides see each other as a PRIC in their different foreign policy objectives. In May, Belarus applied what was described as an absolutely logical decision in the context of expanding cooperation in multilateral formats with traditional partners and friendly states, according to a report in RIA Novosti. In the meantime, Pakistan, a failing state, charged India with attempting to isolate it globally by preventing its participation in a BRICS summit-side event in late June. Because of its tilt toward the West, Islamabad and other nations believe that New Delhi is not fully committed to supporting the interests of developing countries. India only disagrees with the G7, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Canada, on the sanctions against Russia and the conflict in Ukraine because it fiercely defends its long-standing ties to Moscow. However, experts point out that because India continues to oppose making amends with Beijing and Islamabad, the developing and impoverished globe sees it as not entirely dedicated to creating a different global eco-political system. Washington, which has had complex and complicated relationships with these nations and is embroiled in a bitter geopolitical rivalry with the former, stands to gain from this. Formerly considered a loose coalition of several emerging economies, the BRICS now accounts for nearly 30% of the world's GDP, 26% of its land area, and 43% of its population. Its goals are to advance peace, security, development, and collaboration. Argentina, Egypt, Indonesia, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Bangladesh, and Iran are among the countries vying to join the group during the BRICS meeting in Johannesburg next month. Increasing the BRICS organization. According to a South China Morning Post (SCMP) report, China reportedly intended to begin admitting new members. Subramaniam Jaishankar, the Foreign Minister of India, stated last month that the procedure was still a work in progress. Jaishankar referred to the necessity of deliberating about the requirements, norms, and processes for accepting new members. India is particularly wary of the proposal, despite the study making it clear that it is not the only country that opposes enlarging the bloc. This month's three-day gathering of senior officials had started when the news broke, and the expansion proposal was expected to be on the agenda. Anu Anwar, a fellow at Harvard University's Faculty of Arts and Sciences, was quoted by a CMP as saying that other BRICS members' desire to grow the organization makes sense given India's recent tilt toward the West and its potential status as an outlier in the group. Delhi has recently increased defense and technology collaboration with the US, Japan, Australia, and European Union and participated actively in the Quad security grouping, primarily through developing vaccines for the Indo-Pacific area. Why is BRICS of interest? S. Jaishankar, the Minister of External Affairs, or MAA officials have not explained why they believe the BRICS membership criteria should be established. However, according to a Modern Diplomacy article, the main points of contention are a country's economic contribution to the area, its size, cultural influence, and how well it represents it. Additionally, it is essential to strike a balance between fairly representing the three continents of the Global South, Asia, Africa, and South America. The emergence of China and the BRICS signifies a more significant paradigm shift of power away from the US and the West and toward the East. The rationale for joining BRICS was primarily economic and not to politically or militarily isolate the West, which was affected by the war in Ukraine, where developing and underdeveloped nations formally maintained their neutrality toward Moscow and did not denounce its military action. The possibility that the U.S. would use sanctions to weaponize the dollar and that paying off foreign debt would become more expensive due to the dollar's appreciation after the Federal Reserve raised interest rates had prompted countries to look into alternative currencies for use in international credit and trade settlement. The existence of the new Development Bank, NDB, of the BRICS, which provided loans worth $33 billion to more than 96 projects within the 5 founding countries, and avoided the strict conditions, caps on public spending, austerity measures, etc., by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, as was evident from the crises in Sri Lanka and Pakistan, are all examples of China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The bloc's attempt to launch a new gold-backed currency was a step in this direction. Anil Suklal, the South African ambassador to the BRICS, explained that the currency issue will not be discussed at the forthcoming summit. However, analysts were shocked by India's declaration that it opposed a BRICS currency. We were blocked from a BRICS-side event by India. On June 26, Pakistan accused India of committing another PRIC. It described how one member of the BRICS grouping prevented it from attending a virtual meeting in conjunction with the most recent summit of the bloc, which was hosted by China, without naming the nation. At the approaching 14th BRICS summit, this occurred during a high-level discussion on global development. Despite extending the invitation to various emerging/developing nations, Pakistan claimed that one member of the BRICS grouping prevented it from attending the virtual gathering. According to the report, China is the host nation coordinating with Pakistan before the BRICS meetings, where decisions are made following discussions with other BRICS members, including extending invites to outsiders. Pakistan asserted that at this point, unfortunately, one member blocked Pakistan's participation. India can be considered to be a nameless nation,